Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Rick Plaskett, a certified business and leadership coach here in Columbus, Ohio. Today, I have with me Meir Perlmuter. He is the owner of Grandstone Investment Sales. And as my guest today, he is going to give us a little bit of his vision of what owning a business is all about, what the challenges are, some of the best practices, and to share a peek into what it's really like to build and to operate a business. If this is your first time on the channel, please make sure to like and subscribe. That way you'll get notifications when we drop new conversations just like we're having today. So Mayor, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Rick, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, super. Listen, give us a little bit of a background of who you are and tell us a little bit about your business. It's very unique, and I think the audience is really going to enjoy your little niche.
Sure. So my name is Meir Perlmuter. My company is Grandstone Investment Sales. We're commercial real estate brokers representing sellers exclusively and focusing on the niche product of self-storage. We're selling deals really across the country, primarily east of the Mississippi, um, and sort of like a regular commercial real estate broker, but just focusing exclusively on self-storage.
Super, super. So, what does your ownership structure look like? Are you the sole owner of this, or do you have outside investors?
I'm the sole owner. I have no outside investors. This is self-funded by myself. I've had some folks wanted to invest because they sort of thought it'd be very profitable. Um, and for that same reason, I told them I'm not going to take any investors.
Great, super. So tell us a little bit about your role today. How long have you been in business with this company?
Yeah, so I was previously at a larger commercial real estate brokerage firm. I left in May of 23. It took me about a month or two just to get everything up and running from, website, making a few hires, back office hires, just sort of figuring out what company name do I want? What are we going to do? Getting some of the market resources needed. So I'd say it's been about a full year or so, a little bit more now since we've been in business. Today we have 7 agents. I have 7 agents that work at Grandstone Investment Sales, and then we have 3 back office people. So we have sort of like our COO, we have an analyst, and then a transaction coordinator, and then I have a part-time marketing person as well that works for us to help put together all our marketing materials, whether it's BOVs, offering memorandums, LinkedIn posts, email blasts, other marketing, sort of materials, anything like that.
Super, super. So what is your current role today in this business?
Yeah, so what I love most is making cold calls, as crazy as that sounds. That's what I love most. So I try to keep my role to continuing to sell because that's what I love doing most. I love selling. I love being on the phone. Um, Obviously, I run a company now of 10 or so people. We're looking to continue to grow. I hope to hire another 10 people this year. So I guess my role is twofold. It's to run this company to make sure that we're profitable, making sure the agents are trained, making sure we have protocol, process, etc., hiring. I mean, everything. I guess it all falls on me. But ultimately, where I like to be is on the phones trying to sell, real estate in Florida. That's personally the market that I focus on. So I guess that's what I do.
Super. So, how would you break down your time spent either selling, which would be in the business, or looking to future strategy, future planning, which would be on the business?
Yeah, great question. So I'm a big in the business guy, and I probably should switch a little bit to be more of an on the business guy. Um, the problem is that I just love being in the business so much. So that is a problem. I am addressing that, and I guess I'm aware of that problem and trying to work on it. So I'd say my breakdown today is probably somewhere between I don't know, 60/40, 70/30 in the business versus working on the business. And I probably need to get that to a 50/50 split, if not more the other way, if I would like to grow this to where I'd like to grow it. Probably. The challenge for me, Rick, really is is that being that I'm the broker that has experience, I'm the one basically closing the deals and basically keeping the company afloat. So if I'm not making money, it's going to be a challenge to keep the business continue, going. And that's why I get nervous to pull out from working in and just working on. But maybe I got to trust the process. So I'm in the middle of figuring it out.
It's not so much trust the process, Mayor. It's reconfiguring the process. If I were to ask you, I mean, you shared some numbers with me on your growth just in the first 18 months, but what if that was to double or even 3x in 2025? To do that, there has to be some focus on that future thinking and future planning. And, is that something that you could do being the one person, the key hub in the entire business? Or
Yeah.
is that something that you'd have to move outside of that and have someone else take over the day to day?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I probably need to move out of my in the business more. That's for certain. I do hope to triple what we've done though this year. I think it's reasonable. Our sort of first 2 months are teeing up to be almost what it took us to do a whole year. We'll do in 2 months. I do think we can. I do think we can go for the triple, God willing. And yes, I do need to work on that. The challenge is, it's just I love being on the phones. That's the challenge. So it's hard to give it up. And I think I do love also building the business and growing about it and strategizing about it. But it's very different than what I've done. It's just I'm so comfortable on the phone. And I know people think that's crazy because it's cold calling all day long. But for me, it's a blast.
Having a blast, that's what you should be doing. So having everything else around that so that you can do that is one mindset. But also
Yes.
challenge you just to consider what would 2025 look like if you having a blast cold calling, if you made that your reward for setting up that strategy of what does the hiring of that next person and the onboarding of that next person look like, that you can teach to have the same passion that you do. Imagine if you had two of you on the phones, where would that be at the end of 2025?
Yes. Yes. No, great perspective. Great perspective.
So besides cold calls, what other types of strategies are you looking at to grow your business in the marketing?
Yeah. I mean, cold calling I'd say, is the number one driver, at least for us. And I think for a lot of other commercial real estate brokerages, there are some other strategies that we're employing, which a lot of others are employing is, hard mail. I think hard mail is huge. So we send out postcards for every listing and closing that we have, to local owners, and I guess local owners. Um, We are also, attending trade shows like regional and national trade shows where we either, we haven't gotten a booth yet, but we're going, scheduling lots of meetings, meeting people and using sort of face to face as an opportunity. And then going to our markets, actually sort of going not door to door, obviously scheduling meetings in advance, but, flying to Florida for the day and scheduling, 7 back-to-back meetings or driving to Alabama, and again, scheduling meetings. So, between sort of those three methods, that's really how we're attacking it. And I think we're also just trying to work on some of the messaging and some of the ideas of when we're actually getting in front of people. What are we saying, or how are we saying it, or how does our marketing look like? Are we trying to be goofy? We're trying to be professional. What's our image that we're trying to portray?
Yeah, I'm glad you threw in the word image there because before that I was going to say goofy professional. What's the current trend and what is working for you right now?
Yeah. So I mean, we in terms of, like, I guess from a marketing standpoint, even from a name standpoint, I wanted to pick a company name that sort of gave over something like grounding, but big, large, but sort of professional, almost like, Blackstone, like, that type of thing. Colors, I really like the color blue. I think it gives over just good confidence. It's calming. It's, relaxed. I always do like a when I put my kids to sleep at night, I always do. we'll play a game, and then which kid I go to first is done by like a raffle. Either I'll pick a number in my head and they'll have to guess the number, or I'll pick a color and I'll either pick I put two kids to sleep at once, the other two after, but I'll pick a color and they'll have to guess. And I always pick like a blue, which is like a calm color, or I'll pick like a red. And they always pick blue. And for me, that always signals that they're relaxed and that they're calm. If they picked red over the blue, I'm like, what's going on? So I picked blue as sort of like that, again, just comfortable, confident color. Where I was trying to look professional and try to give over that. We're a small shop, right? It's 10 of us total. We're a small shop. Marcus Millichap is, 1,500 agents. Some of these other companies are huge, but we're trying to give over that we're boutique, but super, super professional and not any less than what you'd get from a bigger shop, but rather you'd actually get more from a smaller shop.
Let's run with that theme for a little bit. When you build a business and you're building growth, it's very, very important to build a great team. How would you describe your leadership style and how has it changed over the years?
Yeah, great question again, Rick. You're on fire here. I am. It's a new role for me, so I'm learning. I'd say constantly as I'm going, as I'm going about. Um, it's hard. It's a challenge in terms of like what to do. I expect like greatness and excellence from everyone because like I put in 1,000%. And that's what I expect from everyone around me and nothing really less than that. And when that happens, it gets me frustrated. So I'll try to relay, sort of what I'm feeling or what I'm, thinking about. I would say because I'm a sales guy and sales is just my passion, I'm always sort of like painting the picture of like, here's what it would look like if you made 100 calls and you got, 100 lists, whatever it is, 10 listings, 15 listings. And, what's it like when you make $1 million a year? That's $125,000 a month. Like flash that through your head. What does that think? So I'm always like sort of trying to paint those type of pictures of what does it look like to be that, to be successful. Um, but being frank, it's definitely a space that I think I could work on in terms of just relaying feedback. Um, I've read a lot about that and being able to relay feedback to people, and that's hard. It's always it's tough. It's not an easy one.
It's interesting. My leadership came from starting off graduating from West Point, serving in the Army for another 14 years. And I was sharing with someone earlier today that, the greatest challenge of leadership in my part was not only jumping out of an airplane in mid-flight, but having my entire unit follow me out of that airplane and want to follow me out. I mean, if you can imagine the leadership that it takes to have a 19-year-old jump out of an airplane in the dark in an unknown area. And oh, by the way, he's got 40 pounds of high explosive strapped between his knees. They don't just do that because we've told them to do that. They have to do that because they want to and because they trust me. And as a leader. And in that leadership role, it's getting into their minds and understand where they're coming from many times. It's so easy for us to look at the world and think that the world thinks exactly like we do. And it took me many, many years to realize that they don't. I'm unique, you're unique, they're unique. And so to understand where they're coming from is the first step in becoming a great leader and becoming a flexible leader. The greatest leaders that I've ever known, military or in business world, in just talking to them, you get this sense that they know me, they respect me, and they've known of me since 5 years ago when I last met them. And that's just I don't know how to explain it beyond that, but it's very difficult to um, project that error of leadership. But that's a great leader. Um,
Yes.
it, in your team right now, I know that you're small. Do you have any developing leaders below you to bring up to take over some of those things that are taking you away from your passion of cold calling?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really sort of trying to build up more people that are like expert cold callers. and that's sort of like where we're trying to train people and develop people. And I do have a few, I'd say, maybe two sort of the agents that I have out of the seven sort of have sort of shown some, pretty good skill, and have had some pretty quick success, like, cold calling and going after clients and chasing and following up, etc. So that's really like where that's where I'm trying to build people up, and things outside of that, that's where I'm trying to hire. Um, but I'm really sort of training more on the cold calling and that culture, and client relationships and following up, and just tenacious and very resilient, never taking no, etc. All that type of stuff.
You just hit 6 months of training right there in those last five words, Mayor. What area of training would you like to focus on for your team in the next 6 months, first half of the year, to help build your business momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I think one part is, I'd say there's two parts. There's one part is actual like technical skills, being able to overcome objections on the phone, being able to just be good on the phones. I like to train more in that area. And then I think also sometimes people think of like cold calling as like very haphazard. It actually requires like a tremendous amount of focus to be able to consistently bang out, 25 calls, take a break, then bang out another 25, to have enough content to always, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been to an event and you're smiling for like just hours, and by the end you're like, oh my gosh, I'm smiling for so long, my face is hurting me. That's what it's like when you're cold calling. You have to be on your toes the entire day. It's very tiring. Um, so like time blocking, focusing on, so there's like the tactical,
Mhm.
technical skills of like overcoming objections, sounding good on the phone, having what to say, your opening, your close, asking for the business, etc. But then there's also sort of the I guess, I don't know, the operations part of it, whatever it is, where it's like you gotta block off time. You gotta be, focused. So it's sort of these two different areas, and I guess that's areas that I'd like to continue to train and talk about with my guys and focus on.
Super, super. Thank you so much for that. Now let's take and project this over the horizon. Fast forward, looking into the future. You shared with us already that you're expecting 2, 3x growth in this next year.
Yes.
Um, if we were to take that and project it 3 to 5 years out, what's your approach to goal setting? Not what the goal is going to be in numbers or dollars, but what's your approach to setting that goal that far out?
Yeah. So I remember when I started my career back, and you were setting goals on how many calls, how many BOVs, all that type of stuff. And some people had very specific metrics of goals, and now I think there's something to it. But back then, I never really set anything, and the reason I didn't set anything wasn't because I didn't have goals. It was basically just because I was going to work until I couldn't pick up the phone anymore. So I didn't need to set like I'm going to make 80 calls today. I just made as many calls till I just couldn't make any more calls. Um, Obviously now being a little bit further in the road, I obviously my goals need to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more, focused, a little bit more attainable. But conceptually, I still use the same sort of mentality as I mean, we're going to give it 1,000%. Like we're going to do everything. So like, yes, I have a goal, but it's not even about that. It's just about almost the energy that I'm putting in every single day. And I almost let the goal sort of materialize to whatever it'll be. I mean, I have some goals of where I would like to be and what I'd like to do, etc. Like I want to 3x this year. And I think we can probably 3x the following year. I'd like to grow 10 agents this year, etc. But it's more just sort of the mindset and the ethic of it, at least for me overall, than anything else specific.
All right, will you give me permission to go into coaching mode here just for a minute because you said one little word in there that could come in and start to spoil the entire apple cart here, and that
Please.
was reasonable. You have a passion. You have a passion for what you do, for building this business, and for doing cold calls and putting it into a system to adjust goals to become reasonable. That's what adults do. Okay. Kids with a tablecloth wrapped around their shoulders, starting to jump off the roof. There's no reasonable there. They're expecting to fly. Okay. And they're going to learn about reasonable when they land. But when you start to set goals and say, no, I'm going to back them down and become reasonable, that's when all of a sudden we don't realize it, but the mindset taps the brakes. What I'd like to do is recommend, instead of setting a goal on the activity, 1,000% on the number of calls, set it on a result. Okay. It's not about the number of calls, really. What is it about? The number of yeses. The number of yeses. So if we were to set a goal of the number of yeses, and then reward yourself once you get that. Okay. You sound like every time you get a yes, you get a supercharge of high octane fuel and you're ready to go again. Great. Set yourself up for how much that's going to be, but recognize that that's why you're doing it is you're feeding your own dopamine when you get that success and that drives you to the next. But just a little shift of, instead of focused on the activities, the total number of calls, focus on the results and have your people focus on the results. If it takes 2,000 calls to get two, but what happens if you get four or six? Set on the results instead of the activities, and I think that you'll amplify your results even further as you go forward. Just a thought there.
Sure.
So, hey, listen, we've covered a lot in our conversation so far, and for those of you who are watching, I highly encourage you to save this and come back a few times. Mayor shared a whole lot of great nuggets here, and I know that I'm going to go back and watch this a couple of times just to make sure that I've grabbed every one that he's shared with us. So as we begin to wrap up today, what I'd like to do, Mayor, is hit a little section that I call a rapid fire questions. These are what I'm looking for is just top of your head answer to each of these questions. You ready for that?
Let's do it.
Super. All right. So the first one is, what do you say your key to success is?
Hard work. That's it.
Great. What's one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners?
I would have to say stick within your skill set. That is your security. Um, that is, yeah, that's where I would focus all your energy and your skill set.
Super. What's a book or a TED Talk or a video or something that you have been currently reading that you'd like to share with people?
There's a great book called Getting to Yes. It's a great book. I always love the famous classic How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. I'm rereading that now for the a bunch of time. Those are two, I guess, that come to mind.
Awesome, awesome. And then the last one here is, if you had to choose one area of your business and instantaneously we would wave a magic wand and that area would be improved tomorrow, what would that one area be?
Probably training and hiring.
Super, thank you. All right, before we get to the final question of the day, is there a way that if the listeners want to get in touch with you, that they have a storage property exactly in your zone? How do you want them to contact you, Mayor?
Sure. Yeah. Phone or email is perfectly fine.
Great. All right, here's the last question. What do you find most inspiring to you?
That's a great question. So I'm an Orthodox Jew. So I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a family man also. I got four kids and a wife. I just posted something on LinkedIn that I think is really cool. So in Jewish tradition, we basically believe as follows. We believe that before the action, you act as if there's no God. That means you do everything. Every bit of research, every bit of detail, every bit of preparation. But post facto, regardless of the result, you believe that it's only God. Um, So whether before you make the cold call, you prep. You better know your market information before you make that cold call. But once you make that cold call and it goes well, and the guy says he's ready to list and sell, that's not you anymore. So that sort of keeps the ego in check. So to me, that's I guess an inspiring thought to share with you.
Hey, thanks for sharing that with us, Mayor. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your entire journey. And thank you to the audience for watching today. If you've been inspired by some of this interview, then please, folks, come back and find some more. We've got other great people here, but I'm going to put Mayor in one of the top five that I've interviewed so far. Listen, folks, make it a great day, and bye for now.